You know those old family photo albums? The ones with like the faded sepia tones? Imagine opening one up and finding pictures of your great-grandparents, dressed to the nines, standing on a bustling street in New York City in the 1880s. That's the Gilded Age, a time of incredible opulence, but also deep shadows lurking beneath the surface. And today we're going to peel back the layers of this fascinating era through the lens of three presidents you might not remember from history class: Hayes, Garfield, and Arthur.
Yeah, these presidents are often overshadowed by the titans of industry, like Rockefeller and Carnegie, but they actually represent a turning point in American history. They grappled with the legacy of the Civil War, the explosive rise of industrial giants, and the fight against corruption that was eating away at the nation's core.
It's like a political thriller, complete with backroom deals, assassinations, an unexpected reformer who takes on the very system that benefited him. It's a crazy plot twist.
You know, the term Gilded Age is a critique in itself. It was coined by Mark Twain and Charles Dudley Warner to describe a society that was glittering on the surface, but riddled with social problems underneath.
Okay, so let's unpack that gilded part. What exactly made this era so shiny?
Imagine a world rapidly transforming before your eyes. Steel replacing wood, railroads connecting the country like never before, innovations like the light bulb, and telephone changing daily life. The second industrial revolution was in full swing, generating immense wealth and opportunity, but not for everyone.
So who was being left behind in all this?
This economic boom had a dark underbelly. Jim Crow laws were tightening their grip in the South. Farmers struggled to stay afloat amid declining crop prices. Powerful corporations were amassing fortunes on the backs of their workers. The gap between the haves and have-nots was widening at an alarming rate.
Let's start with Rutherford B. Hayes. His election in 1876 was a nail-biter, shrouded in controversy.
Yeah, it all came down to a disputed electoral college outcome and the Compromise of 1877, a deal struck in the shadows. That effectively ended Reconstruction in the South.
So Hayes, a man known for his personal integrity, is remembered for a decision that had devastating consequences for Black Americans. Seems like a real contradiction.
It highlights the complexities of leadership and the tough choices that often come with it. Hayes was troubled by the rampant corruption of the spoils system, where government jobs were handed out as political favors, rather than based on merit. He was determined to reform this system, which set the stage for some serious political drama.
He was taking on a very entrenched system. It's clear he wasn't afraid to ruffle some feathers, even within his own party. He also faced the Great Railroad Strike of 1877, a nationwide labor uprising, sparked by wage cuts. Can you tell us more about that?
This strike was a powder keg of frustration and anger. Erupting into violence in cities like Pittsburgh, federal troops were deployed to quell the unrest, and this left Hayes deeply unsettled. He understood the workers' grievances, and he sought more meaningful solutions than just brute force. But the conflict between labor and capital would continue to define the Gilded Age.
Next, we have James Garfield, a man whose presidency was tragically cut short, leaving a legacy of what-ifs.
Garfield's story is a real surprise. He emerged as a dark horse candidate at the 1880 Republican Convention, a compromise choice in a party that was deeply divided. He wasn't even actively seeking the nomination.
Talk about being in the right place, at the right time, or maybe the wrong time, considering what happened.
Indeed. Garfield was a man of considerable talent and vision, a former Union general, a congressman, a gifted orator. He had progressive ideas for the South, advocated for the rights of Black Americans. His presidency held so much promise, but fate had other plans.
On July 2nd, 1881, Garfield was at a train station when he was shot by a disgruntled office seeker named Charles Guiteau. It's a chilling reminder of how volatile the political climate was back then.
Guiteau was a stalwart, a member of the Republican faction that vehemently supported the spoils system. He believed Garfield's push for civil service reform had robbed him of a government job that he felt entitled to. His act of violence was driven by this twisted sense of entitlement, and it shocked the nation, cutting short a presidency that had barely begun.
Garfield clung to life for weeks, but ultimately succumbed to his wounds. The nation mourned, and many wondered what might have been if he'd been given the chance to realize his vision for America. His assassination left a void in the nation's leadership, a lingering sense of what if.
And then stepped in Chester A. Arthur, a man who seemed to embody the very system that Garfield sought to dismantle. This is where the Gilded Age takes an unexpected turn. Arthur was a classic Gilded Age politician, enjoyed the finer things in life, His position as a customs collector in New York, that was thanks to his connections. powerful stalwarts like Senator Roscoe Conkling.
It's almost hard to believe that this man, this elegant Arthur, known for his lavish lifestyle, impeccable wardrobe, would become a champion for reform. It's wild.
And yet, when he became president, maybe it was the weight of responsibility. Maybe Garfield's assassination shook him to his core. But Arthur rose to the occasion. It's pretty amazing.
He could have just swept the Starwood scandal under the rug.
Right.
But he doubled down on the investigations. That Garfield had started, why do you think that was?
Well, these star route contracts, they were just rife with corruption. Postal officials taking bribes to award these lucrative mail delivery routes, lining their pockets at the expense of the public. It was a big problem.
And Arthur didn't stop there. He went on to champion the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act, a landmark achievement. Tell us about that.
This act, it established a merit-based system for federal jobs. Just imagine that. And it prohibited government employees from being coerced into making political contributions. It broke the stranglehold of the spoils system. Huge change.
It's incredible. The man who personified the problem became instrumental in dismantling it. What a change of heart. What do you think caused that change?
It makes you wonder about people, doesn't it? Even in an era known for its corruption, there were individuals who strived for something better. It's a good reminder.
But Arthur's record on civil rights was more complicated. He initially spoke out against a Supreme Court ruling that struck down parts of the Civil Rights Act of 1875, didn't he?
Yeah, that ruling. It was a major setback for Black Americans, basically legalized segregation in many areas of life. A huge blow.
And Arthur condemned the ruling at first.
Yeah.
But he didn't push for new legislation to protect the rights of Black Americans. Seems like a missed opportunity.
It shows the limitations, even of well-intentioned reformers, and the long road toward achieving true equality. It's a journey.
Arthur also vetoed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which would have banned Chinese immigration. But Congress overrode his veto. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this act was a product of that growing anti-immigrant sentiment, especially on the West Coast, where Chinese laborers were seen as a threat to jobs and wages. It was a real problem.
It's a dark chapter in American history, and a reminder of how fear and prejudice can lead to such discriminatory policies.
Yeah, Arthur's presidency, it's a study in contrasts. He oversaw the modernization of the U.S. Navy, championed civil service reform, even had the White House renovated, with Louis Comfort Tiffany's help. Quite the legacy.
He brought a touch of that Gilded Age elegance to the presidency, but he also demonstrated a surprising commitment to good government.
His legacy is complex, multifaceted. He was a product of his time, but he also transcended it in many ways. It's interesting to think about.
So far, we've focused on the presidents, the political landscape. But what was life like for everyday people during the Gilded Age? It's easy to get caught up in the big names, the grand narratives. But what about the lives of those who weren't captains of industry or political powerhouses?
Imagine a world without cars, airplanes, even widespread electricity. Most people lived in rural areas, small towns. Life was hard work, especially for farmers. Declining crop prices. They were at the mercy of railroads for transporting their goods. It was a tough time.
We've talked about the rise of those industrial cities. Were those places any better?
Cities were booming, but they were crowded, dirty, dangerous. Factories offered new opportunities, but the work was often grueling, unsafe. 12-hour days, 6 days a week, low wages, no benefits. It wasn't easy.
So the gap between the rich and the poor was just getting wider.
Exactly. Immense wealth creation. But it was concentrated in the hands of a select few. Industrialists built lavish mansions. Workers struggled to make ends meet. A real disparity.
It's hard to fathom the level of inequality.
And this fueled social unrest. The Gilded Age, it saw a wave of labor strikes. Protests. Workers fought for better wages, safer conditions, the right to organize. The Great Railroad Strike of 1877. That was just the beginning. Things were changing.
It's striking that this era of industrialization also saw a surge in immigration. Millions of people came to America from Europe, Asia, seeking a better life. What drew them here?
The promise of opportunity, the chance to escape poverty, persecution. They filled factories, built railroads, transformed the nation's demographics. It was a wave of new people.
But they faced tremendous challenges, didn't they?
Absolutely. Immigrants were met with suspicion, hostility, seen as a threat to jobs, culture. They faced discrimination, prejudice. It was a difficult time.
A reminder that America's history with immigration is complex, full of hope, but also hardship.
Indeed. And amidst all this social and economic upheaval, we see the emergence of new social movements, reform efforts. People began to question the inequalities of the Gilded Age. They sought solutions to the problems. It's a turning point.
So tell me more about these movements. What were they fighting for?
One powerful example is the women's suffrage movement. It gained momentum during this period. Women fighting for the right to vote, greater equality, challenging traditional gender roles, demanding a voice in the political process. A powerful movement.
And the struggle for racial justice continued as well.
Yes, Reconstruction had officially ended, but Black Americans kept fighting for their civil rights. Jim Crow laws, segregation, violence in the South, their struggle for equality. Met with fierce resistance, it would continue for generations. A long struggle.
A reminder that progress isn't always linear. The fight for justice is ongoing.
The Gilded Age was a time of contradictions, progress and poverty, innovation and exploitation, opportunity and oppression, great dynamism, but great inequality. A lot going on.
It's a time that continues to shape America today. Many of the issues we face, income inequality, immigration, labor rights, they have roots in the Gilded Age. It's interesting to see the connections.
Yeah, it's like we're still dealing with the unfinished business of that era, trying to create a more just, equitable society. Still working on it.
We've talked about the political battles,
Yeah.
social, economic changes. What about the cultural scene? Was it all doom and gloom, or was there a lighter side to this era?
It was a time of great intellectual and cultural ferment. New ideas being debated, new philosophies forming, art, literature, flourishing. It was a vibrant time.
So even amidst the social upheaval, there was a sense of creativity, innovation. It wasn't all bad.
Absolutely. This era saw the rise of new philosophies like social Darwinism, applying the principles of natural selection to society, arguing that the fittest would rise to the top. A controversial idea.
Sounds a little controversial.
Oh, it was. It's been widely discredited,
Yeah.
but it reflects the intellectual currents of the time, the search for explanations, for the rapid changes, social inequalities. It was a time of big questions.
New ideas, new philosophies. What about art and culture? What's happening there?
The Gilded Age saw this flowering of American art and literature. Think of authors like Mark Twain, his sharp wit, capturing the hypocrisy, contradictions of the era, or painters like Winslow Homer, depicting both the grandeur of nature, the hardships of everyday life. Powerful stuff.
It's fascinating how art can reflect the social and political landscape, like a window into the past.
Absolutely. Artists and writers grappling with the same questions, anxieties, everyone else, trying to make sense of a changing world, expressing themselves.
This is where it gets really interesting. You have this booming economy, incredible technological advances, but this undercurrent of social unrest. And artists are trying to capture it all. It's a lot to process.
Exactly. Holding up a mirror to society, sometimes celebrating achievements, sometimes critiquing flaws. It's all part of the story.
We've talked about the dark side, the poverty, labor exploitation. But was there a lighter side? What did people do for fun back then?
Of course. It was a time of incredible optimism, a belief in progress, a sense of limitless possibilities, especially in America. People were finding new ways to enjoy their leisure time. It wasn't all work. People weren't just working and struggling all the time. They needed ways to relax and have fun.
So what do they do?
Well, amusement parks were becoming all the rage, roller coasters, Ferris wheels, offering thrills, a temporary escape from the daily grind.
Sounds like the early days of modern entertainment.
It was. And vaudeville theaters were packed. Audiences eager for music, comedy, acrobatics. It was a whole scene.
So people were looking for new ways to unwind and have fun. What about sports? Were those popular too?
Definitely, baseball was becoming America's pastime, and boxing matches drew huge crowds. It was a time of great enthusiasm for sports.
So in the midst of all those complexities and contradictions of the Gilded Age, there was also a vibrant energy, a sense of possibility. It's fascinating how an era can hold so much at once.
Absolutely. It was an era of contrasts, but those contrasts are what make it so captivating to explore. There's always more to uncover.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from those overlooked presidents to the everyday lives of people during the Gilded Age. But how does it all connect to us now? What can we learn from this era that can help us with the challenges of the 21st century?
That's the big question, isn't it? The Gilded Age might seem like a distant past, but it's still relevant today. It's like we're looking in a mirror, seeing both familiar and unsettling reflections.
What do you mean by that? What are those reflections?
Think about the issues that were making headlines back then, the rise of huge corporations, the concentration of wealth, the struggles for workers' rights. Those are all still major issues today. They haven't gone away.
That's true. We're seeing rising economic inequality. The gap between the rich and the poor is growing. And there's a lot of concern about the power of big tech companies. How much influence do they have on our lives? It's a valid question.
Exactly. The Gilded Age is a cautionary tale. It shows us what can happen with unchecked corporate power, and it reminds us how important it is to balance economic growth with social justice.
And it also reminds us that fighting for a more just and equitable society never really ends. The labor unions and social reformers during the Gilded Age, they fought hard for those gains. And those gains can disappear if we're not careful.
It's a constant back and forth, progress and regression. Every generation has to play its part to make sure things move in the right direction. It's an ongoing effort.
It's both inspiring and a little daunting to think that we're all part of this larger historical narrative.
But that's what makes history so compelling. It's not just about dates and textbooks. It's about the choices people made, the challenges they faced, and how those actions still affect us today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Gilded Age, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to think about?
I want them to remember that history isn't just something that happened in the past. It's a living force that shapes our present and our future. The Gilded Age shows us that progress isn't automatic. It takes constant attention and a willingness to fight for what we believe in.
It also reminds us that the stories of those who came before us can teach us valuable lessons and inspire us on our own journeys through life. It's all connected.
Exactly. We're all part of this grand human experiment. And by learning from the past, we can make better choices about the future.
I encourage you to think about how the themes of the Gilded Age connect with your own life and the world around you. What parallels do you see? What lessons can we learn from this era to create a more just and equitable society for everyone now and for future generations? It's up to all of us.
The Gilded Age was a time of incredible transformation, a time when the foundations of modern America were laid, but it was also a time of stark contrasts and big challenges. As we face the complexities of our own time, let's remember the lessons of the past, and let's work towards a future where the promise of opportunity is truly available to everyone.